Big extraction. What is that?
Hey everybody. Now what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about the instrumentation that's in this room, which is NMR, which stands for Nuclear Magnetic Resonance. NMR is a very similar theory as what many people know as MRI in hospitals. And so the idea behind that is that you excite a particular molecule and then you can visualize the excitation and then the relaxation of that excited molecule. NMR is a little more powerful. The nuclear magnetic resonance that we're dealing with deals mainly with hydrogen atoms and sometimes carbon atoms, although other atoms are possible as well. So again, magnetic field determined by our superconducting magnet. Our samples that we make are usually dissolved up in solvents that do not interfere with our instrument and our experiment. They're placed in, and there we can do our radio frequency pulsing. That's a real quick, very simplistic overview of NMR theory.
Oh hey, a letter. Dear Mitch, do an NMR. Love, Dr. Helmy. He's great. Let's see. To do an NMR, I need an NMR tube. Oh, here's one. Oh! Okay, I can't mess this up again. I gotta do this for Dr. Helmy. Let's get another tube. Okay, you got it?
So now we're going to learn how to prepare our NMR sample. We're going to take our sample and add about 2 milligrams to a test tube, like we've done here. Now we're going to add just enough NMR solvent to dissolve our sample in the test tube. In this case, we're using CdCl3, or chloroform D. Add a pipette full of your solvent to the tube to dissolve the sample. Now, I'm going to transfer the sample to my NMR tube. I'm going to use the same pipette, but I'm only doing this because I'm not going to take this pipette and put it back into the CdCl3 bottle. That would contaminate it. Now that I have my sample in the test tube, in the NMR tube, I want to make sure that the solvent height is the proper height for the NMR. I'm going to compare this to the guide made by my professors. As you can see, I'm just short of the Helmy line, so I'm going to add a little more CdCl3. I'm going to make sure to use a new pipette so as to not contaminate the solvent bottle. Now that I have the right amount of solvent, I can cap the bottle. And cap my NMR tube. Make sure you put the cap on straight, because if it's not, as the NMR tube spins in the NMR, it could offset your results. Now let's go upstairs and see how to load the NMR tube into the NMR machine.
Now that you have your NMR sample, you're going to want to have it read by the NMR machine. First, take the spinner turbine and place the NMR tube inside gently but slowly, as the glass is very thin and fragile. Now that you've placed your NMR tube in the spinner turbine, take the NMR gauge and place the spinner turbine inside. The bottom of the NMR tube should hit the plastic because this is the appropriate level for your NMR machine. Then take the spinner turbine and remove it from the NMR gauge. Remember to clean the NMR tube with a Kim wipe and methanol. Do this gently because you do not want to move the tube as you have just adjusted its height for the machine. Once the NMR tube is clean, gently place it in the appropriate NMR slot. Remember to keep track of the slot number as it will be vital to your data later. This is how you place an NMR sample in the NMR machine.
Hi there, I'm Jefferson Sinclair and I'm here to talk to you about advanced cleaning of NMR tubes in a research setting. I'm going to let you guys in on a little Sinclair family secret, and I'm going to teach you guys how to clean NMR tubes the old-fashioned way, like my grandma Sinclair used to teach me.
Unfortunately, Jefferson Sinclair couldn't be with us today because he's sleeping with the fishes, so I'll show you how to clean an NMR tube. First, I'll rinse it with some acetone. Followed by some water. Remember to keep your organic and aqueous waste separated. Now I'll rinse with some 33% HCl. Followed by water. Now I'll use a pipette cleaner to clean the inside. And then rinse the NMR tube with the acetone again. Now I'll wipe the outside gently with a Kim wipe. And leave it upside down to dry in a beaker with a Kim wipe on the bottom. So now that I have my NMR tube on the Kim wipe upside down, I'm going to put it in the oven so that it can dry.
It'll be alright.
Really messed up this time. What do I even do with these? Where do I dispose these?
Place it in the glass disposal, Mitch.
I don't know where that is.
Look behind you.
Oh, hey. There it is. I should take these guys and put them in here. Tape on the NMR tube. You're gonna get residue all over it. It's gonna be a disaster. We'll have to throw the NMR away.
Okay.
Whole bunch of piece of paper and slide it on the NMR tube. Good. Good girl.
So when you want to run an NMR sample, what you have to do is click on this delta symbol right here. This is the shortcut to the delta program. So when you double click on that, it brings up this delta window. The Delta window allows you to access old NMR that have already been run, but also allows you to run new NMR using this spectrometer control tab right here. Looks like a little magnet. When you click on that, it brings up this window called spectrometer control. That allows you different tabs at the bottom of this window: sample, experiment, auto, and then a few others. We're going to focus mainly on auto as well as the sample button. When you click on auto, it brings in the automation window, and that allows you to set up your own experiment. So what you want to do is type in a file name. Now make sure you always have your cursor inside the window when you're typing. So we'll call this one sample 1 test. You would name it whatever you want, with your initials, the experiment number, the page number, some sort of descriptor. Then we choose the slot number, and you can just scroll through to get to the sample slot that you want. And we'll go with slot number 9, where the sample is located. Temperature is something you usually do not change. And now we get to the solvent. Here you can choose different solvents. We're going to choose chloroform, and then we're going to choose proton. These buttons here, notify and export, the export especially allows you to send it directly to your computer. So if you have an email address, you can set that up and send it to that. For now, we're going to have it saved only to this computer, so we hit proton. When we hit proton, you start to see another window come up, which tells you that that's the queue. Once the sample starts rotating over, it will insert the sample and then begin to run the experiment. Once you get to this point, it's pretty much all set. Okay, once the sample has run, usually that sample will pop right up, and we're going to bring it into the window right here. And you can see you have, close that guy out. You can see that you have the NMR spectrum up here. There are other tutorials which we have, which tell you how to process the data. And it all comes down to utilizing the different tools that are inside this window. So different things will allow you to process that information in a way that's appropriate. Once you're done with your NMR sample and you're ready to move on, you want to prepare it for the next person. So what you do is save the data as necessary. The data is usually saved directly to the most generic file, or generic folder. You close that out, and then what you want to do is go back to your sample window, your spectrometer control, and we click on sample. When we open up the sample window, this gives us a glimpse as to a lot of different things that we can do with NMR, which we're not going to really look at. Really what we're going to focus on is knowing that we have the spinner, which is operating, and you can see that with this top moving. You want that value to be around 15 Hertz. All right, and that's a good sign that your sample is running well. Now to get this ready for the next person, we want to eject the sample. All right, and that's the sample state. So all we have to do is rotate the sample around to another slot. Your sample will come out, you take that sample, clean out your tube, and then the other sample will be put in as a placeholder. So I'm just going to turn this to another slot that I know a sample is in. It will automatically eject, and then you can start closing out your other windows. Okay, so once you see the NMR sample rotate, simply close out of your windows. Your sample data is all saved, and you're done. And that's how you leave it for the next person.
run my samples. I've cleaned my tubes. Now I need to keep them safe from all the tricksy hobbitses in the lab. I love you, my precious.
So, when I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh, my first card was from the Kaiba deck, right? It was the Blue Eyes White Dragon, one of the rarest cards from what I thought it was. The only problem was, I thought there were only 4 Blue Eyes White Dragons in the world, like the show. As soon as I saw that my cousin had 3 and I had 1, I was in belief that we had all the Blue Eyes White Dragons in the world. But then I went to, what show was it? I don't know, one shop, I think it was Toys R Us, and I saw all the Kaiba starter decks, and they all had Blue Eyes White Dragons. This was my first breakthrough in life. Also one of my most disappointing moments in life. As a young kid, my sister got the Yu-Gi starter deck, which I really wanted in the edition. So I tried to trade her anything for it, which really sucked. And she didn't take a single trade. That's how Indian girls are. Are we done?
Yeah, we only needed like 10 seconds.
Oh, okay.